What is everybody? Kyle Murray from FTN Daily back again with the PrizePicks Prop Show. It is week 8 for the NFL season. I have 5 of my favorite PrizePicks plays to bring you for this week's NFL action. One of those picks is going to be in a London game, so make sure you're getting these picks in nice and early for that 9:30 Eastern Time kickoff. But before we get started, let me know in the comments section below who are some of your favorite plays for this week. Who are you throwing into your PrizePicks plays? Comment below, let me know. If you're a new user at PrizePicks, head over there, use code FTN, get yourself a 100% match up to $100, free chance to win $100, free chance to earn $100 right there. So do not miss out on that great bankroll building opportunity there. But we had another 4 out of 5 last week, and can't complain about a 4 out of 5. We're doubling the money there, 2x. But in terms of wanting that 5 for 5, we had 3 in a row early on in the season, so looking to get back into the 5 for 5 magic. Luckily, we're yet to have a video here on the FTN Network YouTube channel that goes for anything worse than 4 for 5, so let's keep that going here, and let's get to the picks. Like I mentioned, going straight over to London, Jeudy over 46.5 receiving yards. He does get Russell Wilson back, and some might not think that's necessarily a great thing. He had 96 receiving yards last week with Brett Rippon, and that was actually his best of the season all the way back until week 1. He had 102 receiving yards with Russell Wilson back in week 1, but since then, 96 receiving yards last week was his best since then. But outside of that, I still think this 46.5 number is too low. He's had 53 plus receiving yards in 4 straight games. The involvement has been consistent. He has a 24% target share over those last 3 games, and now 3 straight games with 7 or more targets, including 11 last week. So really like the spot that Jeudy's kind of evolving himself into in this Denver offense. I do think Russell Wilson getting him back, although he hasn't played well, I do think that's still an upgrade. So I like this number, Jeudy over 46.5 receiving yards. Pick number 2, Tyreek Hill over 85.5 receiving yards. I don't really need to explain why I think Tyreek Hill has the upside to go over this number. He's gone over 160 receiving yards 3 different times this year, and he's averaging 110 receiving yards per game. But there's been some up and down for Tyreek Hill for sure, in terms of some really strong performances. Like I mentioned, 160 plus receiving yards in 3 different weeks. But, we've seen a few different performances where he's been under this number. So there's definitely the risk-reward factor for Tyreek Hill. But in terms of matchup, it's really hard to imagine a better one. Lions rank 31st in DVOA against the pass, and they also play at the 7th fastest pace in the NFL, which has set up a good game script here for Tyreek Hill. And another thing is the Lions, they are getting DeAndre Swift back. He's off the injury report, completely healthy. Amon-Ra St. Brown appears ready to go. He obviously returned last week to what we thought was going to be full strength, and then got knocked out of the game early with concussion. So getting him back as well, I do think this offense will get back to kind of what we saw in the first few weeks, which will only push the Miami Dolphins even more. And according to our wide receiver cornerback tool over at FTN Daily, thanks to Jeff Ratcliffe, Hill actually has the best matchup advantage of the week. So I'm liking this number, Tyreek Hill over 85.5 receiving yards. My model has him for over 103 receiving yards this week, so I like the edge there on that pick. And if you're looking for more edges, head over to FTN Daily, check out the PrizePicks Edge tool, which compares all the PrizePicks lines to all my projections and find some of the best numbers, which is a lot of times how I find these picks that I give each and every week. But pick number 3, Derrick Henry over 12.5 receiving yards. This has been a staple for us here at FTN Daily, FTN Bets all year long, especially the last 4 weeks. I bet Derrick Henry. He was actually the first bet I'd placed for a prop all season long early on in week 1. It was 9.5 is where his receiving yards line was. It's now at 12.5 this week. But the involvement for Derrick Henry has just been so solid in the passing game over the last month or so. 30 plus receiving yards in 3 of his last 4. He did fall short last week. He only had 10 receiving yards, but he had 3 catches that game. Like I just don't think that if you told me prior to that game that Derrick Henry had 3 catches, I would have assumed that he went over this number easily. I think this is a number he can get over very, very easily on a game where he has 1 catch. If he racks up 2 or 3 catches once again here, I think he has a very good chance to beat this number. He's now at a career high target share at 12%. Nothing to blow you away, but in terms of how low this number is and how elite of a player Derrick Henry is, I think this number is simply too low. Last week he accounted for 15% of the team's targets. Running backs are seeing nearly 8 targets per game against this Houston defense, so it seems to be a spot where offenses are liking to attack the Houston defense. And overall, I know the game script might not be one that is all that, endearing for potential game scripts for Derrick Henry to get a ton of work out of the passing game, but same thing happened last week where they were ahead pretty much all game He still saw 15% of the targets. He still had 3 catches. So I still really like this number, Derrick Henry over 12.5 receiving yards. Pick number 3, DeAndre Hopkins over 70.5 receiving yards. He wasted absolutely no time getting not only involved in this offense, but heavily involved in this offense. And some might say he was the entire offense. It seemed like Kyler Murray didn't want to look many other places last week. And rightfully so. DeAndre Hopkins is his guy. D-Hop saw 14 targets last week, which led to 10 catches and 103 yards. 14 targets equated to a whopping 48% target share for this Cardinals offense last week. Now, my favorite part about this bet is that this game is the fastest projected pace game in my model this week. Both teams are inside the top 6 in adjusted pace, so that kind of tells you the story there. And even better, Minnesota is 21st against the pass this season. So really like DeAndre Hopkins to have another big game here in a spot where I'm expecting the Cardinals and the Vikings to be pushing the pace and forced to throw quite a bit. So again, DeAndre Hopkins over 70.5 receiving yards. And finally, George Pickens over 40.5 receiving yards. Now, this is a number on PrizePicks that's a bit higher on some of the sports books, which is typically not something I like to do. But you can get George Pickens 38, 39.5 on sports books. But Pickens here at 40.5, I'm still really in love with this number here. The model really likes it. And to be honest, I just think that the number is simply too low. Now, this is a very tough matchup. The Eagles defense has been very, very good. But I think this is going to be a spot where the Steelers fall behind quickly. They fall behind, potentially tremendously, right? I think that could be a spot where they are behind by multiple scores very early on in the game, which could lead to more passing volume for this Steelers team. Now, Pickens has gone over this number in 3 of his last 4 games, and he's gone over this number fairly easily, but even more importantly, he's gone over this number in every single game that Kenny Pickett has started and finished. Now, I think it was 2 weeks ago where Pickett started and Trubisky came in. He did not get over that number, and that was the only time he hasn't gone over this number in those last 4 games. But there's a clear chemistry in work here between Pickett and Pickens. I don't think it has anything to do with their names sounding similar, but I think there is definitely some chemistry going on with these two guys. Pickett continues to rely on Pickens, but like I mentioned, Steelers are heavy underdogs. I think that'll lead to some more passing volume, but even more so, interestingly, is no matter how much Chase Claypool has been involved, Pickens has 20 targets over the last 3 weeks, and now it's 5 straight games with 6+ targets. And that's while Claypool has been fairly involved. That's while Pat Freiermuth has been fairly involved. Deontay Johnson's still involved. This Steelers team is throwing a lot. They're forced to because they've been trailing quite a bit this year. And that just leads to good things for George Pickens. So over 40.5 receiving yards is the play there for Mr. George Pickens. So those are the 5 picks. To recap, we have Jerry Jeudy over 46.5 receiving yards. Tyreek Hill over 85.5 receiving yards. Derrick Henry over 12.5 receiving yards. DeAndre Hopkins over 70.5 receiving yards. And finally, I guess these are all receiving yards props. Just realized that now. George Pickens over 40.5 receiving yards. So those are the 5 plays for the week. Please like the video. It helps us out a ton. Stay tuned. You guys can subscribe here so you can stay tuned, stay updated on some of these future videos. NBA is kind of hitting stride. NHL, same thing. So we're going to have lots of videos coming out from multiple sports over on the PrizePicks front, and obviously tons of other fantasy, DFS, and betting content here at the FTN Network YouTube channel. So please subscribe, stay up to date, and thank you guys for tuning in. We'll see you guys next time. And as always, good luck, everybody.